News is out today that 1 million people currently on food stamps are going to be cut next year from the rolls. And the reason is that there are harsher new rules in place. According to a report by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, they say, quote, "The falling unemployment rates will cause states to lose an exemption they currently have for food stamp recipients. Instead, a 3-month federal time limit on nutrition assistance for unemployed adults who don't have dependents or disabilities will kick in." So they specify here that if you're healthy, single, and unemployed, you're going to be affected. It really doesn't apply to other people, but healthy, single, and unemployed, because they assume that, well, if that's the case, you should have a fucking job. Now, that's an arrogant assumption because oftentimes, I mean, we've covered the numbers in detail. I don't know exactly what they are today. I haven't seen a number recently, but I know that in 2010, 2011, there were 3 or 4 people for every 1 job opening. So it's just a naive idea that, well, if everybody just tried, we could wake up tomorrow and have 0% unemployment. I don't understand why everybody doesn't just try. It's not. It has nothing to do with the will of these people. Of course these people want jobs. Very few people just want to sit on their couch all day long. But there are systemic economic issues. I mean, to take that position is as silly as thinking that, from when the economy was decent to when we had the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession, like over a month's time span, another 5% of Americans didn't want to work, right? Because unemployment was like 5% at one point, and then it shot up to 10%. Like what, and that 5% more people just got lazy? Is that what happened? No, it's got nothing to do with them being lazy. It has to do with the economy and the cycle of the economy and macroeconomic policy and stuff like that. So it's a crazy way of thinking about the situation, but what they're doing is they're going to cut the food stamps to these people. Now, I'll say it again, if I was in charge and I had to prioritize, what things should we cut, what things shouldn't we cut, cutting food stamps would be at the very bottom of my list. Because nobody wants to be on food stamps. They go on food stamps because they're fucking hungry and they have no other way of filling their stomachs. So it's an upsetting thing, but I want to go ahead and present to you Business Insider. They have a list of some of the craziest projects that the government spends money on, and I want to compare and contrast what we're deciding to cut, food stamps, versus these things which we're still funding. So, for example, the government spent $3 million for research on World of Warcraft, the video game. Now, I got no problem with video games, I got no problem with gamers, but $3 million to study the interactions people have on World of Warcraft, please. The government spent $700,000 on studying cow farts. And of course, the idea behind that is to see just how much it hurts the environment. They spent $500,000 at the NIH to study the behavior of male prostitutes in Vietnam. So that's okay, but food stamps, not okay. They spent $175 million to maintain vacant buildings. $175 million to maintain vacant buildings. Now remember, the average food stamp recipient gets about $1.30 a meal. So how many meals can people get if we just cut back on the maintaining of vacant buildings? Well, that's $175 million worth of savings that you could have put towards food stamps. And then also they spent $800,000 to study a genital washing program of men in South Africa. Some of these things, I don't even know a theoretical reason why we would be looking into them. Never mind an actual reason why we're doing it. So there you have it, man. If you listen to the U.S. government, what they'll tell you is, we don't have money to not cut food stamps. We don't have money to turn the water back on in Detroit. We don't have the money to upgrade our infrastructure from a grade of D. But we do have the money for endless wars overseas. 57% of the discretionary budget goes towards war. And we do have money to learn stuff about the genital washing of people in South Africa. If you want to say their priorities are screwed up, well, that's a giant understatement.